Hey YouTube, I've decided to finally get into the whole online review, gear, all that sort of stuff. So this is the first video. I'm going to try to have an overview of all the gear that I have. And I worked at a music shop for about 6 years, so I've got a lot of experience with a lot of what's out there these days. And these are just pieces of gear that I've come across over the last little while, and or things that I've picked up that I've really enjoyed, and hopefully you will too. So this is a live video. It's a one-off, at least to start with. I'm going to see how it goes, and I'm just testing out the new webcam that I have on the laptop as well. So the first piece of gear that I'm going to review here, I've got the, well, new for at least 2011 is a limited edition Schecter Spitfire Solo 6. This guitar here is excellent build. It's the Solo 6 body is Schecter's version of a Les Paul essentially. It's mahogany, nice and solid. It's a set neck, so it's not a bolt-on, so you get really good sustain out of it. What I liked about this one compared to the one that came out in 2006 that was more of sort of an SG style body, this one has a pair of EMG pickups. It's got an 81 and an 85, so the really nice thing about that is those are the pickups that I normally used to use in my sort of main guitars when I had time for a band and all that kind of fun stuff. And basically this one, essentially that was my cat going by there, so maybe editing will have to be used in the future. But anyways, it's great in terms of what they've put on it. It's got Grover tuners on the back. See if you can see that there. Grover tuners, and really nice design. I'm also a bit of a military history buff, so I mean I really enjoy the body art, and I'm glad that this was the first one they chose to reissue. I've heard rumors that they're planning on reissuing the rest of them, so we'll see what comes of that. At any rate, so I'll give you a sort of a sampling of what this thing's got in terms of what its sound is. As far as the amp goes, I'll do a bit of a review with that as well. As you can see beside me here, it's the Peavey 6505+112 combo. It's the first tube amp I've ever owned. I've used quite a few of them. I mean, when I worked at the shop, I got to test, everything. We carried Fender, Marshall, Vox, Orange, a whole bunch of stuff. And when we started getting Peavey in, the price point of the Peaveys was phenomenally better than most of the others in terms of cost. I mean, a lot of people will debate, what's better, and I find after all the time working there, it's more of a personal preference thing. My recommendation to anyone out there is just go with your gut, and whatever sounds good to you. It doesn't really matter, I mean, I got this one mainly because I really like the gain stage channel on it, the lead channel. It's got a lot of kick. You don't even really need to get distortion pedals involved in your chain, which was what I always had to do with my older ones. But before that, mind you, I was using solid state amps, so their distortion is okay, but nowhere near as good as tube distortion. And my recommendation as well, for anyone out there thinking about a new amp, if you can spend a little bit extra on a tube amp, it's definitely worthwhile. And Peavey is probably the best one for sort of a budget conscious player, which I myself still fall into. I'm back in school now. I worked full time for the last couple of years, and it sucks breaking even on the bills. So got to go and take that next step. So as far as it goes, I'm going to just be rolling through a couple of settings here and just do, some basic chords and things like that. I'm not going to be shredding up a storm or anything, so if you're looking for that, wrong vids. But here we go. So this right now is on the lead channel. My settings, what I really like about the amp especially, is that you've got separate stage presence and resonance controls for both your lead and your rhythm channels. The one big bonus with that is that enables you to basically boost your highs and your lows in addition to the 3-band EQ, which is also separate for each channel, which is really nice. That's a great feature that a lot of the other amps don't have. Not even the regular 6505 in the head format or in the 212 combo has that as an option. They both share the presence and resonance, and they both have a shared EQ. So not as great of an amp as this one is in terms of flexibility. But a lot of people like to decry this amp because they're like, oh, it doesn't have a great clean stage, because it's all high gain, they add the extra preamp tube, blah. with this one here, I find that you can still get some nice cleans out of it. You know, I mean, they may not be as nice as a Fender or a Vox, let's say, but you pretty much have to buy another amp to do that. But I find that they're fine. You know, a lot of people, all you have to do, one of the key things is you got to make sure that you scale back your pre-gain stage dial with the 6505 when you're on the rhythm channel. Also make sure, I mean, I know it's probably a silly thing, but make sure that the crunch button is not engaged. Because obviously that's going to give you that sort of tube overdriven kind of classic rocky type tone. And I mean, if you want a nice clean or a glassy clean, you're not going to get that out of it. Plus, I mean, you know, your bridge pickup wouldn't be the greatest one to stay on. It makes a big difference between the neck and the bridge. I'll show you right now. Just jump between channels there. So that's on the bridge pickup. That's on the 81. Now that's on the neck. So between those two, you definitely are getting a much better tone out of that. And it's definitely, you know, it's enough for me. I don't use clean that often, but I'm starting to get into it. Perhaps that's the old age thing, you know. But again, mainly my whole thing is that this amp for rock, metal, that sort of thing, it's best bang for your buck. When I bought mine, I paid about 670 Canadian last year for this amp. Now it's down to about 600 bucks Canadian, brand new. You know, so I mean that's huge value. You know, it's almost as inexpensive as a lot of the Bugera amps, but you know the Bugera amps, although overall they're not bad, they've got a much higher rate of return and other kind of issues with them. My shop never carried it for that exact reason, because we knew that there were a lot of issues. They had carried them in the past, and they just found that, you know, for the low value price point, it was much better off to carry, you know, a plethora of, you know, stuff like Peavey and other ones that had a better reputation, plus a much wider range. You know, Bugera does an awful lot of stuff, or, well, Behringer, you know, but as far as it goes, the Peavey stuff was just a lot more versatile. The name was a lot more trusted, and I mean their price point is very similar, so it's not very far off from a lot of those other ones. Anyways, as far as it goes, so here's the clean. Going to turn down. Always make sure too when you're switching between channels, your post controls, which is your volume. Post is volume for those of you who, you know, are looking at this amp and like, where the hell's my volume? The post, basically, you want to make sure that it is going to have to be variable between the two. There's no way that you're going to be able to get away with having the lead, you know, be at a very high, and then go to your clean and have it very low and have an equal sort of output. You've really got to play with it to kind of get your dB levels similar, because they are going to be quite wide. And if you engage the crunch on the rhythm channel, you've also got to kind of keep in mind where your pre and your post settings are on that channel, because if you just engage that, it gives a huge walloping boost, and it can be very loud. I mean, this is a 65 watt all tube amp, so it can get extremely loud, extremely fast. I never usually run my posts of about 3.5 right now in the room I'm in, because this is my music room. I've got all my CDs and other things on the wall and stuff, and they start rattling around at about 3.5, 4. There's just the vibrations start moving the floor, and yeah, it's it's pleasant on stage, but not necessarily in the room that I'm in right now, or the house, and the wife doesn't appreciate it. So. But just turning down the post so you can see. So that's the post, and then if I engage the crunch. Oops. So you can tell there was a big boost to the volume there. I had to toy around with it a little bit, mess with things on the switch to make sure that it wasn't going to that next crazy level. And I mean, that's one of the drawbacks to this amp, of course. I mean, you have to almost rely on pedals if you are going to be doing a lot of switches, and just leave the clean channel as like a regular clean. Perhaps use something like a Tube Screamer, you know, a Blues Drive, or some kind of overdrive pedal for the crunch channel. And then beyond that, You know, if you go to your lead, you'll probably just want to use the distortion that's there anyways, because it's very, very flexible and very, very versatile. I'm going to jump back to that just for a second here, give you a little run of that. So I mean, this is kind of like, you know, I'm maxed out on my pre-gain. You can scale that back a bit. I'm maxed out on my pre-gain. You can scale that back a bit, you know. Give yourself a bit of a smoother tone. But of course, that's not what this amp was designed for. You want to use that pre. Of course, post is your volume. So right now I'm actually on about 1.5. This is at 1.5 right now. So I mean, it can get very, very loud. You can probably hear right now. You might be able to hear that humming too. That's just coming off the raw tube noise being at like 1.5. So. And of course, you mess with your presence and resonance controls. Drop them off. That's just the raw lead channel without any of those added bonuses. And if I boost presence, you can hear how much sharper that's gotten. And then of course, if you add the resonance, that's with presence back off. It just fills it out and deepens the tone. So I like to have it, you know, usually both at about 7 or 8 or thereabouts. I like the thick, low tone for a lot of stuff. I mean, I was a rhythm player. I was never really a shredder or anything like that. And then, of course, I mean, I just like having that sharpness of the attack on the notes, especially for trem picking and things like that. I mean, that's mainly the style, thrash, that sort of thing. So, at least that I play. I mean, it's up to you, whatever you play. But again, this amp does have a lot of versatility, and the bonus is, you know, if you don't have a lot of pedals to start with, or you don't want to get into that, you know, you can just use what you've got, and it'll go pretty well. So as far as it goes, I mean, I think I'm getting near the end of my video length time. So just to wrap it up real quick, a couple little final notes. The guitar is really smooth, plays really well. You know, it's a nice piece for the price. It will become collectible. I mean, I've been trying to track down some of the old Aviation ones from 2006 that Schecter released, and they're going for about double what they were street at the time. I've seen them as high as about $1,200 on eBay these days. So I mean, it's a decent investment, even though it's not a Fender or whatever. But again, this is only going to run you maybe $600-700 depending on where you buy it. And again, the pickups alone are, you know, half that cost. It's a set neck, it's solid, it's all Grover, you know, Tone Pros bridge and stuff. So it's really good value for the money. And as far as the amp's concerned, again, things that I really like I said, the gain stage, your lead channel is phenomenal. It's an excellent boost. It's got a lot of kick to it. It's nice. It's got a simulated CAD out in the back. As well, it's CAD out. You can plug into a 412, 212, whatever you want. It's got a simulated microphone output, so you can actually run this amp directly out to a PA system and run it through that and boost it. So that's a huge bonus. Not a lot of tube amps come with that. So that's really nice to have. It is foot switchable. Basically what the foot switch allows you to do is to jump between your lead and rhythm channel, and the secondary button lets you turn on and off the crunch. However, it doesn't come with the foot switch, and that's part of the way they probably keep their cost down a little bit. It'll run you about another $30-40. Myself, I got very lucky. I actually had a friend of mine has a Mesa Lone Star and ended up with a second foot switch. So, you know, he had 2 of them. He didn't need the second one, and it actually works great. It will switch between the channels and turn off and on the crunch. as well as do my rhythm and lead channel. You just have to remember which button. It's reversed. The solo one here is actually my channel switch, and the one that says channel is actually the other one. So most 2-button foot switches will work. We used to test a couple of them. We know the Vox one doesn't. We knew the Marshall ones didn't work in the Peaveys, but a couple of the Peavey ones worked of varying kinds. You have to press hard on them in some cases before it kicks in, but the Mesa ones tend to work okay, and you